say we as Kenyans need to change our mindset. Accountability and morality should be important than tribalism. Absolutely 100%. I tell you, man, whoa, these tweets, crazy. And Duncan Munene says you should put Njiru along with Barack Muluka and Dr. PLO Lumumba. Great minds there. Gisheru Endi said the show is on fire. It's the economy, stupid. Bill Clinton's line.
It has to be.
And Scovia Lucera, she works at the Star. She says, I'm a big fan, but my auntie's an even bigger fan. She's unwell in the village, but has woken up to watch the show.
Yeah, great.
We wish her well.
Great.
We wish her very well.
Yeah.
One more. Let me read one more. I saw this earlier. Nanga Kanywa, you say, listen to this. Every 5 years, except 2002, we throw out the commissioners. Each of these contests has had one constant. Do the math. Same script, same character, different race. Who is fooling whom?
Like I said, I think we need to raise our level of consciousness.
Can we do that, Ken? Or are we too mature democratically? Or maybe democracy doesn't quite work for us?
No, democracy, by the way, is never neat. In fact, and I keep underlining this, if you find a scenario where there is no cacophony, people are not differing, people are not in contest, then you do not have democracy. For me, the only question is, how low do we go?
Yeah.
How low do we go?
Correct.
And again, and on both sides of the divide, you can't dig in. We have to find a way of coming and agreeing on how we move the country forward. Because we keep on saying this country is larger than anybody for that matter. And so for me, I think that is the biggest task we have, to grow our sense of consciousness and to engage in a different manner.
Yeah. And also accepting defeat sometimes.
Yeah.
And you know, at the end of the day, not everyone can be president, you know that.
Yeah.
Not everyone.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll take my own example. You know, it's always best to use your own example. Back in 1984, I was campaigning for head boy of St. Mary's. I was beaten out, hands down, by a guy called Dr. David Kamau.
How come you've not gotten a job? And I mean, what has it that St. Mary's guys are getting jobs?
But I was devastated.
Yes.
But you know, I got over it.
Yeah.
I got over it, and David turned out to be the best head boy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So maybe at some point we have to realize that, look, maybe it's not for all of us.
Obviously we won't all become presidents, neither will we all become governors, neither will we all become MCAs or MPs. Somebody has to win. But I think what is important is a fair process. And what is important is how we get to the fair process. And what is important is how we deconstruct this tribal thing. Right? We should be able to talk without being tagged. We should be able to say, I don't like, without being called Luo, Kikuyu, Kamba.
Agree to disagree.
Agree to disagree. You see, the problem we have in this country, if I, for instance, disagree with Uhuru Kenyatta, what then happens immediately is people from the community start bashing me.
Yeah, they call you a traitor.
They call me a traitor. If I disagree with Raila, I'm immediately called a Kikuyu bigot. And I think it's total nonsense.
Yeah.
We have the right to disagree with anybody without being being given a tribal tag. Just like people have a right to picket without being beaten.
Are we ever going to outgrow that, Ken? That's my question. Or will it take our children or their children?
This is a spiritual thing, and this is what I'm saying. This is what we must carry. In fact, the other day I was I happened to have been in a forum where there is in fact the breakfast national breakfast forum, where we have what we call a national conversation. And I remember asking the church leaders, there were some church leaders, that we need to raise the ante, not every 5 years waiting for a crisis so that they come in and resolve it, but the ante needs to be raised perpetually, because then that's what being a Christian is all about. We cannot bear Christianity if we keep dropping our true essence as Christians. And there is so much that is happening, by the way, that needs to be addressed. For instance, as I talk about software, the other day I read about an article about what is happening in Kilifi. The community there is selling their young 12, 13, 14, 15 daughters to tourists, Muzungus. They get infected with diseases, they become drug addicts. I mean, that is a very serious issue. It's an issue which I would like to see people going on the streets for. Because if the young people are finished in this country, we're in trouble.
Correct.
Look at the level of alcoholism. When you basically do a study, you're finding younger and younger people drinking. And what was very interesting, the last study is the young ladies are even drinking more than the men. And we know for a fact that the minute, you know, the females take a lot of alcohol, even productivity in terms of getting children becomes a problem.
Look at the men right now.
Look at the men,
men.
Even in Central.
Correct.
They're just drinking. And basically women challenging them. You know, that they become useless. They are not even fulfilling, you know, their roles. And so there is so much that is killing this country. And that even this IBC question for me is a tip of the iceberg, and it's just a symptom of the bigger question which we must address.
I'll get back to that in a moment, Ken. My alumni, Hospital Hill Primary School. What the hell is going on? Because look, by the way, in the 60s and 70s, that was a model school. They brought in 1/3 white, 1/3 Asian, 1/3 black. Model school, fantastic. I think it built a lot of foundation of a lot of people I know today. And you didn't go to Hospital Hill.
No, I went to Westlands.
You went to Westlands Primary. But you're on the board of Hospital Hill Primary School.
I'm on the board of Hospital Hill.
But in that board, the ushensiness that goes on.
Well, you know what is happening. The board in itself, I think, doesn't have a problem per se. But what is happening in the education system is that there is, again, just like is happening in politics, an old mindset that has been ingrained in the education system, so that it becomes when parents try to question things beyond a certain level, you become an enemy. You're told you're spoiling the school. You're told you're politicizing
just because you're speaking up.
You are speaking up and looking for accountability. You have a scenario, for instance, in our school where I, as the board chairman, do not know where money really goes from the swimming pool. I don't know.
Gone.
Trips, no receipts. Money is being asked on a daily basis.
And the school is dilapidated, by the way.
And the school, by the way, we try with the minimum resource that we have, but it's still, running down. But I want to say this, that I know, by the way, that school can shine again. But we need a fundamentally different mindset. All right? So that.
But they won't allow you because of that old thinking.
Old thinking. And sometimes I even suspect that some of the education officials get some of that money.
Of course.
I mean, that has been the system.
It's a trickle effect.
And it is known. It is known.
And that Hospital Hill Primary is a microcosm of schools across this country.
Across this country. Across this country. So that accountability is a very hard thing to get.
So as a board chairman, as you're trying to make change, doesn't that frustrate you? Does that make you feel, what, do I need this?
It is very frustrating. In fact, many times you ask yourself, do you need this? But then you tell yourself, if you take off, then what have you done? All right? So we keep fighting. But I want to say this. I think the TSC, and I'm happy that the whole question of principles especially is being discussed, because I think we need to up the character and the standards of the people who run those schools. If you think about it, the school now has grown exponentially. It has 1,800 pupils, which is big. That, by any standards, by the way, if you think about the average corporate, a corporate with 1,200 people is a huge corporate.
Absolutely.
And for you to be able to run, a body with so many people, then you need training of another level. In terms of the way you lead, harmony, all right, what we do. But then again, there's a problem in this education system. The focus on what we call now exams, and I'm happy that we are reviewing this curriculum, has basically meant that even we parents are held at ransom. Or your kid must pass, or they must come for tuition. And I always complain, by the way, you cannot tell children to come in home clothes on a Saturday and tell them when you are asked, say that you're coming for life skills. That is ushenzi. You're teaching them how to lie. And when they leave that school, how will you stop them from lying? But let me tell you what, the sad part about this, Jeff, is that sometimes you will find even parents basically saying you're politicizing the school when you're looking for accountability, when you're saying, where is our money? And by the way, again, just like, for instance, in the case of IBC, those schools, if you look at them, they tend to have a very high turnover of head teachers.
Yeah.
Because there is that thing of head teachers generally feeling, this is my school.
Yes. And they own it.
And I own it. In fact, you'll hear somebody saying, if you don't like it, take your child to another school.
They would say that.
We are told there is no caning, there is caning in schools.
Corporal punishment.
And there are some teachers who almost become untouchable. And so you wonder, is there something that we are not seeing? Is there a mafia? You know, the Chief Justice talked about a bandit economy.
Yeah.
And it is not only up here. There are bandits everywhere.
Every level.
Every level.
Yeah.
And that's
so is there hope, Ken, at the end of it? Is there hope?
I think there is hope.
At the top of the show, you said, let's not beat ourselves too much.
I think there is hope.
But when you see the rot.
I think there is hope, Jeff. And why I'm saying I think there is hope is this. One, there is an attempt, for instance, to review the curriculum. And in any case, it took us almost 30 years to get a new constitution. So the question is the time that it will take to reformat ourselves so that our yea becomes yea and our nay becomes nay. What is worrying me in this country, Jeff, is that the people who stand up for what is right are constantly hammered down.
Yeah.
Constantly. Thrown out of office. All right? I mean, I remember the other day, for instance, if you reflect on the story of Safaricom trying to look at it in doing the forensic audit.
Yes.
And then when it comes out, instead of praising them for trying to do something like that, you start hammering them. And of course, the people who are hammering them are people who own business in Safaricom.
They start going out to the man himself.
And so you can replicate this type of stories.
Yeah.
And I think the nation needs to have a conversation with itself. It is not okay to steal from us. And it doesn't matter at what level, whether it is the chief, whether it is in the hospitals, because it is happening, whether it is in the police force, whether it is in the schools, whether it is in the political platform. We need to have a serious conversation, whether we are calling it a dialogue, possibly even driven by the media, so that we depart from these trivialities.
You were asking how long is it going to take? It took us 30 years to get a constitution. It took America, this year is going to be 240 years.
240 years, yes.
240,
yes.
From 1776.
Yes.
And they still don't have it right yet.
And
they're still stumbling here and there.
I think, like I said, democracy is noisy. Democracy is an ongoing experiment. Democracy will have ups and downs. And like Churchill said, it is not a perfect system, but it's the best system that we have. And so we need to internalize what democracy is all about. We need to be able to say, I don't like what that guy says, but I will put my life on the line for his right to say it.
But then they do say that, Ken, and they do hang out and have tea and coffee under those tents. It's the rest of us who are Ushenzi. Washenzi.
Yes, because by the way, one of the things that I've found very interesting about politicians, and I'm sure you've fraternized with them, they will talk at each other outside there, and then come and have a cup of tea, because they are civil.
Yes.
They don't start saying you Luo,
no,
you Kikuyu. No, I'm sure when Raila went to State House, he didn't start telling Uhuru you Kikuyu, and Uhuru tell Raila you Luo. I mean, they saw two politicians, all right, and so we the people,
we're the ones.
We know we get so hot in the collar. Like now, I'm sure in my tweet I'll be insulted.
You and me both.
I will be insulted.
It's okay. It's par for the course.
Because of saying so I don't like so and so. I don't like the way somebody does something.
All of a sudden.
All of a sudden. But it is okay. I will reserve their right to be able to tell me what they want to tell me.
That's right.
Of course, without insulting me. I don't expect somebody to call me a dog.
Oh, they do.
But if they differ with me, it is okay.
They call us all kinds of names.
And I will continue saying what I say because of the way I see it.
And you must, Ken, because you have one more minute to go.
Yes.
Say some more. Say some more.
What I would want to say in this country, Jeff, is a scenario where every citizen understands that they are an agency of greatness, and that they are a seed of greatness, and that, by the way, the reason why every one of us is given a vote is because we are supposed to think. We're not supposed to be herded into corrals where we then come out and somebody is saying, these guys are voting east, these guys are voting west. That nonsense must cease. We must be able to ask this government, what does it mean in terms of taxation? How much am I being taxed? How am I able to own a house? For instance, today in this country, for the average worker, by the way, it's almost impossible to own a house. How come we're not having that conversation? I wish that is what we were pushing Jubilee on, and telling them, you guys, we want policies that enable us as young people. When you start working, you start owning a house. That is how Singapore was built. Yes, and by the way, one of the things Lee Kuan Yew did, he made sure that everybody started owning a house, because then you had a stake.
Ownership.
But what do we have when we have a capital city where majority of the people live in slums? What you have basically is a potential time bomb. And so we must start thinking outside the box. I have a big problem, for instance, Jeff, when we're in a hotel like this, all right? And the guy at the door, let's not even talk about a hotel like this because it is high-end. The guy at the door at a basic fast food restaurant cannot even afford to eat chips inside there. When he's going for lunch, he has to go and look for a kiosk. Those are the type of things we must address, so that people coming from Kibera, for instance, cannot even afford to take bus. They cannot even afford to take a bus to industrial area to go and work. Those are the issues. They have to walk. And when they go to industrial area, they cannot even afford lunch. You know what I'm saying? If you look at the so-called first world economies, these animals we call fast food restaurants are basically the cheapest.
Yes.
You can go into a McDonald's and have a burger for a pound.
Correct.
And fries for a pound. And a pound in Britain is nothing. Today, when you go to a fast food restaurant and ask for a burger, you're told 400 shillings. Total nonsense. That's what I'm calling Ushenzi. Who can afford? And those are the real conversations
we should be having.
Yes.
Ken, let's keep having those conversations.
Yeah.
Let me just end with a couple of tweets. Caleb Majiwa says, people who stand for the truth are constantly hammed out. Loving the JKL show tonight. Elijah Musheru, I think you can sum it up well when you say, it is the Ushenziness that has made us. When you think of South Korea and Kenya in 1966 were on par.
And I can assure you, by the way, that you will not find this type of conversations that we are having as far as our leaders are concerned.
We were on par in 66.
Yes.
Now they are 40 times bigger than our economy.
And we'll blame it on the Luos, we'll blame it on the Kikuyus, we'll blame it on the Asians. In fact, I keep on telling people, look at the Asians. You will never see them on the streets.
Never.
You will never see them saying, give us more money for devolution. In fact, I'm not even sure they know devolution, but they work. They wake up every day, enter a van. In fact, by the way, the average Asian family in Nairobi stays together, because when a family stays together, it can work together. As Africans, when you come to Nairobi, one of brother is in Madare, the other one is in Mudaiga, the other one is somewhere else in I don't know where, and you can't even work together.
Shame.
You know what I'm saying?
Shame on us.
So that at the end of the day, they are able to take care of each other. How many Asians do you see in Kibera? None. How many do you see in Madare?
None.
Yes. Why? Is it that they can't be poor? Of course they can be poor, but as a community they are organized. They have their own hospitals. MP Shah, Aga Khan, Guru Nanak, Avenue. You don't see them lining up in Kenyatta to die in hospitals, because, by the way, most of these hospitals of ours, when you go to those hospitals, that is a death sentence. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
We need to think deeply.
We need to think deeply. Let's leave it at that,
And
Ken.
we need to act deeply.
Thank you, brother.
Asante.
Thanks for your time.
Asante.
Keep talking, Ken.
No, I'll keep talking.
Keep talking.
I'll keep talking.
Because the moment we stop talking,
I will keep talking.
is the moment we start fighting.
And let me tell you something else, by the way. For me, I have come to understand one thing. Nobody kicks a dead dog. Right? I mean, you don't go on the road kicking a dead dog. If somebody kicks you, then there's something that you're saying. So they can continue kicking.
There you go.
And I'll continue speaking.
Good man.
Yes.
Ken Njiru, folks. Keep tweeting at Ken Njiru Ken at Uungwana Kenya. Mine is at Koinange Jeff, the hashtag Uungwana. Ken has nailed it. At the end of the day, when you're pointing fingers at people, you got 3 fingers pointing right back. Think about that. And like Ken also says, we're going to keep talking. Pende msi pende. We'll keep talking. Because the moment we stop talking, is the moment we start fighting, and we do not want to go down that slippery slope.
Yep.
Tomorrow night, right here on JKL, another outspoken Kenyan coming on the bench. That's right, Orier Rogomandule, with a big hat and big hair. She's coming on, and she's got a lot to say. Stay tuned for that. In the meantime, thanks so much for joining us tonight. Good night. Good luck. God bless this amazing nation. Thank you, sir.